We got a trial, y'all. Well, at least we're getting close. Hello, my true crime lovelies. How are you? I hope you are well. It is a Sunday. I think this is my third video. Yes, I'm in the same outfit, but that's okay. I'm going to change before I go into my live. We're going to talk about Lori Vallow Daybell. I believe she likes to be referred to as Lori Daybell. Since she unalived Mr. Vallow, I can see how that would be sensitive. She's being charged with his unaliving, and that's what we're going to talk about. Not only is she being charged with it, but she's representing herself. And who are we to pass up a good pro se trial? If you don't know who she is, I don't know where you've been. You may know her as the Doomsday Mom, Cult Mom. Any of that ring a bell? She's got a couple of cases going on. There's one that's already been resolved, for which she has received a life sentence. I'm not going to go back over it. I mean, I didn't go over it all. We're not going to review it. It involves children, and that is like, I can't do it. But my good girlfriend over at Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo, none other than Miss Kathy, covered that full trial. And so I will put a link in the cards. I'll put it in at the end so you stick around for this update. But then you can get caught up in case you haven't heard of her on her original crime. But let's just jump right in, shall we? We're going to start. It's the Doomsday Couple. This is specifically about the murder of Charles Vallow. So we're going to go through it. Bear with me with the technology. I'm trying to make sure I show you the right thing. And so I've got two screens. Because I know how you guys are. You like to see everything. She's been called Doomsday Mom, Monster, Cult Mom. She is accused of, along with her husband, who you see here, Chad Daybell, of unaliving her previous husband, Charles Vallow. So she was, like I said, charged with life without parole by a jury, and her husband got the death penalty. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. So let's go through, find my way around. So first, this is Charles Vallow. This was her husband that she unfortunately unalived. They were happily married in 2006. He was a businessman, Charles Vallow. Friends say it appeared to be a happy marriage. The couple were raising Tylee Ryan, Lori's daughter, from her previous marriage. And for all intents and purposes, they seemed happy. Then along came JJ Vallow, whom they adopted. And JJ is actually Charles Vallow's great nephew because his sister, Kay Woodcock, is JJ's grandma. And so Kay Woodcock's daughter, you know, sometimes as children do, adult children, lost her way. Lori and Charles stepped up and they adopted him. He was the grandson, like I said, of Kate Woodcock. He had autism, and everyone said like Lori was super patient with him. Tylee loved having him around and being a big brother. In 2018 is when Lori and Chad meet. And honey, let me tell you, Chad wrote these, I don't even know if we should call them autoerotica or not. That's not the right word. I don't know, mommy porn. You know, Paul from Reporting Live for Myself, he read the literature, and I use the term loosely. But there are things like hot loins and other things. So if you need a good chuckle on a day, check those readings out. This is a picture of Charles, and as you can see, a police officer. So Charles was getting concerned. This was shortly, so 2018 is when Lori met Chad. 2019, Charles is concerned. This is a clip from body cam footage where he's telling the police officers that his wife is trying to kill him. She picked up his car from the airport, left him stranded, removed the kids, didn't tell him where they were. He was very upset. At that point, she had communicated to him that she was a god preparing for the end of the days. He also said Lori had threatened to murder him. He filed for divorce in February of 2019. He expressed that he feared for his and the children's safety. I mean, that's bad when you feel like your spouse is trying to take you out and then her brother shoots you in cold blood and claims self-defense. So that is Alex Cox. That is Lori's brother. He's sitting out on the curb outside of the house after he shot Charles, claiming self-defense. It's a really weird story. Like, someone had a baseball bat. First it was Tylee, then it was Alex. Whatever it was, a gun is what ended it all for Charles, unfortunately. He had sent them to Chandler, Arizona, so he'd filed for the divorce, but they were in separate places. He was coming to visit the kids, and he came in to pick up JJ, and then he never makes it out alive. Lori and Tylee claim that they were leaving when it happened. They also do an interrogation, and it's kind of creepy. We'll cover it later. I just want to get the broad strokes so we can get to her being pro se, and so this makes sense before we see her representing herself. So Lori and Tylee went to the police station afterward, and it's creepy watching them because you can see Lori manipulating both her daughter and the police officer that's doing the interrogation. She's got like her arms folded up. Like, obviously she's attractive. She's using her good looks, as most attractive people do. No shade. Whatever privilege you have, honey, use it. Tylee is saying bad things about Charles, and well, it's like Lori is saying it and then Tylee's co-signing, which I am not a fan of. Any parent that encourages a child to speak poorly of the other parent in the absence of that parent is dog food to me. Like, not even good dog food. It just should never be done, right? Like what we say back home, stay out of grown folks' business. And what is going on between two married people is definitely grown folks' business. So September 29th, Lori moves closer to Chad Daybell. So she now relocates to Rexburg, Idaho, and her brother moves as well into the same apartment complex. Then her daughter vanishes, then her son vanishes. Her brother was the last one to see both of them alive. They didn't disappear on the same day. JJ was last seen September 29th in 2019, and Tylee was last seen September 9th. So both happened in the same month, but just some weeks apart. Originally, Lori had asked someone to lie and say he was there, but then and we'll get to it, but Lori and Chad go away to Hawaii to get married. And side note, Lori had lived in Hawaii with Charles Vallow at one point. So they go there, and I remember this. I was in California. My mom was sick. She'd just been diagnosed, and she's fine now. But I think I got off the plane like February 11th, and then she gets arrested February 20th is when Lori gets arrested, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So the kids are gone. A friend lies about JJ being with her, and then she finally comes clean. And Lori was telling people that he was being a zombie. Side note, Alex Cox's cell phone showed him at Chad Daybell's backyard after the death of each child, and their remains were found eventually on that property. October of 2019, Chad's wife dies. Tammy Daybell, she was 50, seemed to be in good health. It was very odd. The Daybell children declined an autopsy. And also they testified, the daughter, I think her name is Emma, I might not have that right, but she testified. It was a weird reason why they didn't get an autopsy. It didn't make a lot of sense if you kind of kick the tires, but he was found guilty of the murder of his wife, so take it for what it's worth. Then they get married in Hawaii. So I think I've got a shot of that. So we go from all of these deaths. Sorry, I didn't go through this. So missing, they are reported missing. There were press people in Hawaii, like checking on Lori and Chad, asking about the kids. And Lori was being, I don't know, obtuse, like it was none of their business. She was laughing and smiling. So I remember watching it, hoping that because she was smiling, that her children were still alive. And like, she was just annoyed at people being silly, overreacting. That is, I didn't know all the other things. The story was just coming out, and it just sounded so unbelievable. Like, they're just so dead people that they've left in their wake, right? Like, who would imagine those two would be out unaliving family members? They were picked up in Hawaii in December of 2019. Then Alex Cox died. The night he died, he told his wife, I think I'm their fall guy, meaning Lori and Chad. And Lori knew her brother would do anything for her, but he was onto it. He died. It was determined he died of natural causes, but it was also determined that Tammy originally died of natural causes until all of these other people came up DEAD. The 25th of January, that's when they gave Lori the order to produce her children. She was arrested on the 20th of February. May 21st, she and Chad are charged with first-degree murder in the deaths of JJ and Tylee. And Chad was also charged with the death of his wife, Tammy. So they go to court. Originally, they were meant to go to court together. Eventually, Chad's defense team opted to separate, so they became two separate trials. Lori did not waive her right to a speedy trial, while Chad did. So as a result, Chad faced the death penalty, while Lori did not, because they were not going to have enough time due to her request for a speedy trial. And Chad's folks tried to get that removed, and it didn't work. So he ended up being convicted of the death penalty, DP, and Lori got life without parole. She gave, I would say, one of the most, well, I can still say one. At the time, it was probably the most bizarre statement made at sentencing. Lori Vallow is like, basically, the children love her and she knows they're okay and everything's okay and everybody's wrong. Just like a total disconnect from reality. So you knew she was, I mean, if he was unsure, he was damn sure after she finished talking. Along the way before she got to trial, though, because she had some competency issues, there was a time where her trial was halted, even though she still ended up going to trial a year before Chad did. It was halted for competency issues. She was deemed not competent. Then she was deemed competent. Obviously, you have to be competent to go to trial and be able to vigorously participate, I guess, with your attorney and defend yourself, right? If they're vigorously defending you, you need to be able to help with that. I think that is a curious journey to her getting to pro se now. So they had another competency. The judge in this case in Arizona had another competency test when she asked to be pro se. And then he said he was going to delay it for that. She was a little disappointed. It came back fine. She is allowed to defend herself. And so we will take a look at, how that shall go. So December 7th of 2023, she's arraigned in two separate cases. Conspiracies to commit murder in the 2019 death of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Yes, number 4. You heard that right. We'll get into it when we do the backstory. He died after police said he was shot by her brother, Alex Lamar Cox. Cox claimed self-defense. Daybell and Cox, who died in 2019, were accused of trying to murder her niece's husband, Brandon Boudreaux. Yeah, just really bizarre. So let's just take a look and see how she did at her first hearing as pro se. I thought she looked great. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about looks, but I don't know how we avoid them. It's the first thing we see. And so just like how food looks, we eat with our eyes. Like if you want to take someone in, you take them in first with your eyes. I know she's a former hairdresser and makeup artist, so she did not have the same struggle as, say, for example, Miss Sarah Boone. She could do her own hair and makeup, even with the restraints of being in jail. Let's take a look at this. This is the judge, and I like his haircut. Something about a man with a, well-groomed head of hair. Just me. Okay, let's listen.
Inmate Legal Services works. Did you receive the state's response yet?
I did receive it yesterday, but I was hoping that I could put my response on the record today, my reply.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get my glasses. Do you want me to stand, Your Honor, or can I just sit here?
You can sit there.
So the state has claimed in their response that these documents are not material in the case. And this defense is entitled to this specific evidence for the proposition that this evidence can be used to impeach the thoroughness and good faith of the police investigation and the intent of the prosecution. That's Kyles versus Whitley, 514 U.S. The acid test of this prosecution is not a matter of determining if the defendant is guilty of the crimes that the defendant is charged, but rather, was any crime even committed? And where is this evidence? This defense has yet to find any evidence of a conspiracy.
I have sped it up just a wee bit. I like that she's assertive, she's clear, she's confident. Is she right? I don't know, but she quoted case law. I'm here for it. She's loud and enunciated, and she's got a little bit of spunk. I worry if it's kind of breaching on too much emotion, but let's see where she goes with this.
In the 100,939 pages that have been turned over by the state does not get to say, like they did in their last motion to us, in their last answer, to say, oh, we gave you over 100,000 pages, so that ought to keep you busy. That's not how it works. These are serious charges, and these are serious consequences for these charges. In determining the actuality of a crime, the state is required to meet, in reality, not in theory, a standard of culpability that is defined by law as a crime. The state is required to meet the challenge of defense reasonably without bias, conflict, prejudice, or speculation. So the defense, we keep filing motions for discovery since we don't know if it's some kind of strategy of the state that they're holding back this actual evidence of conspiracy in hopes that the defendant won't have time to prepare a proper defense against the evidence that comes forward at the last minute. This court has denied every motion the defense has filed to acquire this evidence. The state has claimed in their response to the defense's motion that the defense's request is overbroad and wide sweeping. Is this the defense left to pinpoint where this evidence is and try to find it? No, that is not the law. The state is required by law to give the defense evidence of the crime they are being charged with. This is the purpose of the Brady Law and the right to due process. This is why in 2020, the United States enacted the Due Process Protection Act that
all right, she didn't went back to what the United States enacted. I don't know if she's correct, but it sounds convincing. Go ahead, Lori. Fight for your life. It's also interesting because she really doesn't have anything to lose, right? Already having a life without parole sentence. So it's kind of like balls to the walls, I guess. Although I wouldn't want another sentence in case you have some random appeal and that one gets overturned. Not that I think it will, but like look at all the risk. What are you up against? Make decisions based on what you're up against.
Provides defendants like me with greater protection, Brady versus Maryland. The state has continued to impede the defense from conducting a defense. This is a violation of the 14th Amendment of our great Constitution and the defense's due process rights. Today, the defense is requesting that this court do the following three things. One, order the state to turn over all evidence of a conspiracy since our trial begins in 76 days from today. I would also ask that they would pare down their witness list to these witnesses that will actually be testifying so the defense can conduct productive interviews. And then I would like for all motions and responses.
Now, this I know. They have to disclose all the witnesses that they might potentially call, even if they don't call them, just so that there is notification of it. I think what she's asking for is I guess, what are the priority witnesses? But they can't. If they pare down the list, they still have to include the people who they may call. For example, rebuttal witnesses. If she says something that is not true on the stand, I'm assuming she's testifying. And then someone else can come on and say in rebuttal that what she said is incorrect or what their recollection of it is. And then the jury gets to decide who is more credible. So I'm not sure how they would handle that, right? They have to give her everything. It sounds like she's asking, I don't know, for a high priority witness list, which I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing or not. They definitely have to list all witnesses that potentially may be called.
To be sent directly to the defendant in a timely manner. I'm having
or they will be prohibited from bringing that witness as I understand it. Those are my 2 cents. I am not a lawyer. I'm just Tanika with my 2 cents.
Really hard time getting this stuff. I don't get it from ILS to 7 days after things have been filed, after your orders have been rendered. I'm not getting these. This defense intends on starting trial on time without delay. And I request that this defense requests that the court grant the motion to order the state to produce all discovery of extradition at this time so that we can get started on getting prepared for trial.
What does anything in the extradition have to do with the underlying charges? Can you tell me that?
Yeah, it's to find out why all this started when I can't find any evidence that there is. So
have you read the grand jury transcripts?
I have.
Okay. The grand jury transcripts summarize what the state's evidence they intend to produce at trial.
I understand that.
So when you say you can't find anything, that is the summary.
I understand that. With indignation, if you understood it, why are you asking the question is basically what he's saying. He's like, it's in the grand jury indictment what they intend. If you've read it, I'm not clear where we're going. Also, I feel that it's weird that she's focused on the indictment on the not on the indictment, extradition. What does that have to do with you murdering your husband, right? Even if you feel it's improper, I guess you would cite it for the record and then maybe on appeal, but I just don't understand why it matters. We saw Mangione, he initially was going to refuse extradition and then he got that top-notch lawyer who was like, boy, get your butt back to New York and stop playing around. So eventually she was going to get there, willingly or unwillingly. The law was going to bring her. So I don't understand her focus. Am I missing something? Y'all let me know.
In the grand jury transcripts.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess I don't understand how an extradition a year or so after the fact, after the indictments, would have anything to do with the underlying charges. So can you articulate that for me?
I can, Your Honor. There's the detectives that are on these cases are all continuing to go back and forth with all of these different agencies. You have the FBI, you have all the different agencies that are working together. You have Rexburg, Fremont County, you have Chandler and Gilbert. You have all these people. Then I have them coming up, and they're going to be on the stand, and they're going to be in trial, and they're going to be saying what they reviewed. They've reviewed all these things, and there's communications between all of these agencies that I feel like that the defense is privy to. We should be able to have that and look at that and see where all this came from, where all this started, why they waited 2 years to make these charges. There's all these things, and why they decided to extradite when I saw someone sent me a news article.
So for sure, I can say, well, again, I'm not a lawyer, but my opinion is that they waited 2 years because the clock starts ticking. And if she were to ask for a speedy trial, they would be scrambling. So they waited until they had their case set up. I mean, I know as true crime followers, a lot of us get anxious of like when, what's his name? Stephen Stern was charged with the CSAM, but not with the unaliving of Madeline Soto. And we were like, when? I trust the state knows when to bring it, and they know they want to win. So I don't doubt that. I don't second guess them on that.
3 days before I got brought to Arizona, that MCAO was putting out a release that they were not going to pick me up and they were not going to extradite me to Arizona until after my appeals were finished. So it's contradictory to that. I just don't know where it came from. And there's a lot of things that are mystery questions to the defense that we are entitled to according to the law.
All right. Well, everything you've just told me, none of that would be relevant in the trial in the case in chief. Does the state intend on producing any iota of evidence or presenting any scintilla of evidence of anything that happened after the dates of crime that have been charged in the indictments?
The state, although there is information that occurred after that will relate to the conspiracy that has been disclosed to the defense, anything that occurred after the indictment, during the extradition process is completely irrelevant and will not be brought in during the trial.
I didn't mean the date of crime listed in the indictment. I meant the date of the indictment. Correct. So the state doesn't plan on presenting any evidence to a jury of anything after the indictment.
Correct.
So how would that be relevant to your trial then?
I feel like it's relevant to the whole, Your Honor, in the sense that the police investigation and the intent of the prosecution, it doesn't make sense. I would like to be able to have that.
All right. Are you otherwise on track for your trial date?
Correct.
Are there interviews going on with your investigator or your advisory council team?
We're working on getting those set up right now.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to address today? This was sort of just a status conference to make sure things are on track.
I have 2 motions that I'd like to file with the court today.
All right. Do you have copies for the state?
I don't today. I thought you could make a copy.
Can we see them?
Sure.
I'll ask the deputy county attorney, from your perspective, anything we need to discuss here today? Yeah.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, the thing is, before we move on to the next thing, when she's saying it doesn't make any sense about why they indicted her at that time, again, I don't know that she's going to get the answer in looking at the paperwork, because I think it's in case she asked for a timely or oh my God, what is the word? Speedy trial. If she asked for a speedy trial, right? Otherwise, like, what is the point of when they decided? And she was like, it doesn't make any sense. That is not going to determine whether she gets convicted of murdering and conspiring to murder her ex-husband, of when they extradited her, or even when they indicted her. Murder has no statute of limitations, no SOL. So if you are a murderer, you are SOL. If you think, oh, they'll just forget about me, because it does not work like that. Anyway, let's get back to what see if we can pick up what she's putting down.
How long, I'm assuming the 2021 case would be the case that the state intends to try first.
Correct.
How long would that case take for the state's portion to present?
Probably a couple weeks, Your Honor. I mean, and I say that obviously I'm unaware of how long defense will take for cross-examination. So I would probably ask to pre-screen the jury for significantly longer than that.
Meaning 3 weeks or 4 weeks?
Yes, Your Honor. I obviously, I do not know what Ms. Daybell is going to question any of the witnesses.
As we're looking toward that,
just for clarification, when he says the 2021 trial, that is, here it is, in June 2021, she was charged with conspiring to murder Charles Vallow. And that was the same month that she was ruled incompetent. She had to receive mental health treatments, just for context of what's going on.
trial date, is advisory council willing to assist the defendant on the jury screening process if we do the electronic questionnaire?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, good.
Also, for context, the electronic questionnaire, they've been going back and forth. There's been multiple motions. Apparently, they don't do jury voir dire typically in person. And so I believe the defense is moving to have it done in person. It sounds like by him saying, if we do it electronically, so it doesn't sound like it's been decided in her favor that it will actually be in person. That's just wild to me that you would do voir dire via video. I'm a vibey person. I want to be in the same room and feel those vibes.
Going outside of our scope, but yeah.
Sure. I have received a motion for specific.
I keep stopping, sorry. So the judge asked if the support counsel could do something, and she's saying it's going outside of our scope, but sure. So it's on the record, it's out of scope, but he's asked, she's willing to do it. Just they're, I guess, keeping track. As they should be.
Discovery from the defendant, well, two separate ones. Just going forward, can you title them maybe what specifically you're looking for? Because if you name all your motions the same thing, it gets a little difficult to keep track of them. But I have to.
So not legal advice, but I guess clerical advice. Apparently everything has the same name. And you know, when we go through the docket, it's the title of the motion is in there. So if they all have the same, that could be confusing. Makes sense, right?
Two separate motions for specific discovery. For example, on this one, you could title it something like motion for discovery related to the Gilbert DR number or something like that, just to differentiate these. We'll make copies of these for the prosecutor, and then we'll have those filed with the clerk today. One of your requests was...
So prosecutor hasn't seen it. Sounds like he's not going to address the motion today. Prosecution needs to see it, and I guess they'll hear... Well, I shouldn't say I guess. I did it again. Maybe they don't have to do oral arguments. It's not always an oral, maybe it's all written, but obviously the prosecution needs a chance to respond to what she said prior to the judge ruling.
Was to have the state send you directly any pleadings, which according to their certificate at the back of the pleadings, they are mailing them to you. I can't do anything about how long the jail takes to process that. So I do recognize that there's probably some delays on that, so we won't hold you to the normal reply times because of those delays that it takes getting through the jail administratively.
So it's the same thing that Kranick told to Sarah Boone. There are advantages and disadvantages to representing yourself. And we know that snail mail is slow getting into and out of those jails. So... but that's what she wanted.
In that case, Your Honor, could we have perhaps that go to my investigator, then I could maybe get those faster? Would he also be included on that?
Your Honor, I do email them to advisory council as well as in the court, so,
All right.
but there's not much else I can do.
Who's your investigator?
Jeff White.
And your advisory counselor in contact with him?
So this camera guy has some sort of weird foot fetish, I guess. I don't know. I didn't watch all the other trials. Like I said, I went to Gossip Rumor and Innuendo and got my daily download every morning. So I don't know if there's a thing going on with her foot. You guys let me know if you have some idea. I'm not a fan of these socks, and I just got off of a call where everything they wear, somebody else wears. Like it goes to the wash, so I'm a little skeeved out by this right now. But anyway, is it meant to show she's nervous? I don't know. My mom taps her foot. She's definitely not nervous. It's just a habit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So the record will reflect that the state's getting a copy of those two motions today, and then the state will respond accordingly. I'll just set I'll have you reply within 10 days of the date of the filing of their response. All right.
That's their shaking, not mine.
Depending on and then I'll rule on the motions as they come, or I'll set a hearing if need be. But at this time, I'm going to affirm the final trial management conference of March 18 at 8:30 a.m. in this division.
We got a trial, y'all. Well, at least we're getting close.
Trial date's currently March 31. Again, the first case that would be heading to trial would be the 2021 case. Anything else for today?
Yes. Will trial be staying before Your Honor? And if so, will we be staying in this courtroom?
I don't know yet. I'm going to confer with the associate presiding judge, and I suspect it will stay here and it will stay in this courtroom, although for jury selection, we may move to a bigger courtroom if we're doing in-person voir dire.
He said, if we're doing in-person voir dire, which leads me to believe it has not been ruled on. The last that I remember, don't quote me on this, it had to go to the chief judge because that is the practice of the courthouse. It's not specific to this judge that they do not do in-person jury. The ask is that for this case, they do. I don't know what the supporting arguments are as to why we should, or I'm not in it, but you know, why they should differ from their standard operating procedures, which is kind of a big deal, but probably not impossible, right? Like anything is possible.
There will likely be the next of kin present. This courtroom obviously does not have a victim room or a witness room. With the media, that obviously makes it more difficult for the state to keep those individuals away from each other, from overhearing each other.
So victims will include Kay Woodcock and her husband, whose name is escaping me. And I feel for her. They both had to go to the prior trial because JJ is her grandson, right? And so she's actually the one who tipped off that something was wrong because she was looking for JJ and then Lori was being very evasive. So her due diligence, her see something, say something, got this whole ball rolling. But she'll be there. Her husband will be there. I'm not sure who else. I'm sure 99% sure that Charles Vallow had children, has adult children. To her point, like they should have a separate place. And so how is he going to accommodate
type of case? So obviously we're happy to stay before this court, but would be requesting that this be reset or moved to the South Court Tower so we would have those accommodations.
I'll talk to the criminal presiding judge and the associate presiding judge regarding that, and it's just a matter of availability of bigger courtrooms. Anything else from the defendant?
So if there's not anything on the 31st, the trial's still starting on the 31st of March, ma'am.
I just was going to ask, can we set both trial dates or how are we going to do that?
First, you'll have two separate jury trials with two separate juries.
Correct.
So the first trial that will be on or around March 31st. We anticipate when that trial's done, we'll talk about how quickly we're going to do the second trial. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay.
Like the second trial is the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux, right? That would make sense.
It's hard to set the second one without knowing how long the first one's going to take and then the readiness of everyone as far as the second one after the first one.
And is she representing herself in the next one? Girl, give yourself a little break in between. Don't rush it. I mean, you're doing life. I don't know what the hurry is.
Concludes. All right. We will be at recess on that matter. I'll take any motions under advisement.
So that was her first foray into being a pro se or pro per, depending on the court. Defendant, I think she did fairly well. I think people were kind of being hard on her. If her foot is shaking for nervousness, if that's the point they're trying to make, I feel like she contained it very well. It was underneath the table. We only could see it because he was zooming in. Why he was zooming in, I don't know. I would be nervous too if I'm defending myself, and it just public speaking in general, I get nervous. So I'm not sure what the point of the camera person doing that. And didn't camera people get sort of like a smack on the hand for zooming in, or was that zooming in on faces? Like, what are you trying to show us, I guess? If you guys tell me Dr. G already covered it, I'm going to go look after this just in case. But I don't know, I thought she handled herself well. She's obviously a persuasive woman. She's a cult leader, right? So she knows how to persuade people into things. She was articulate. I don't agree with her reasoning. Like, who cares about when they indicted you, when they extradited you? Like, ma'am, the man is dead and you're here now. And the statute of limitations, there is none. So, but if she wants to spend her time on that, she wants to spend her time on that. She has not co-counsel. What did they call it? Not adjusted counsel, whatever. Assisted support is what I'm trying to say, right? So that differentiates her from Daryl Brooks or from what Sarah Boone was going to do. And she's got some guardrails or someone explaining to her. So we'll see. I dig the go-get-itness, and I'm actually surprised considering like she was not mentally competent just what was it, 2 years ago, and now not only has she been deemed competent, she was retested by the judge, which will help, she can't later claim whatever. And I'm excited to see what Miss Vallow does. I don't know that any of the arguments will make sense, but what has she got to lose? Do you know? You have the things like there are the brother who did it is no longer here. Are they tying in her ex-husband, or it's her current husband now? Are they tying the current husband into it? Like, maybe. And I see that they didn't charge her with murder. So like, I feel like if that was in Florida or Atlanta or Georgia, that she would be considered a murderer. Like, right? Charlie Adelson didn't pull the trigger for Dan Markel, but he is convicted of murder, conspiracy to oh my God, conspiracy to commit murder. And I can't remember his third charge now, but she's kind of getting off light, right? And then she's got the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. I haven't delved into that at all. Maybe Kathy will cover that for us. I don't know. But I don't know what the evidence is. I'm looking into all of that. But because she had a hearing this week, I wanted to get us started on that. We got so many irons in the fire. So many people committing crimes who are not well, apparently. Yeah. I will never understand. They destroyed so many lives. And Chad's family, his daughter at least, is all in for Daddy Daybell. Go figure. What do you guys think? I think we should cover this. I'm going to do some more videos unless you guys tell me, no, we're not interested. I might do them anyway. Just post them to members. Somebody wants to see it, but let me know down below so I'm not out here guessing and just making up stuff for you to watch. All right. Toodles.